Welcome back to the Work Cultured podcast. Today we've got with us Steven Charlap. He is the founder and CEO of Soap Health. And this is not his first rodeo as a founder and CEO, as I'm sure we'll hear about. But he's got a fantastic mission and even tagline on his LinkedIn. So, hey, Steve, why don't you introduce yourself, give us a little bit of background to who you are and how you got to where you are.
Thanks, Jason. Glad to be here. My name is Steve Charlap. I'm a MD, MBA serial medical entrepreneur, as you mentioned, on a mission to eliminate misdiagnosis from medical practice in memory of my older brother, who was a practicing cardiologist who lost his life to a misdiagnosis.
Wow. Man, right out of the gate with just kind of that heart capturing story. I definitely think we'll come back to that. But as you know, as I warned you, we like to ask every guest the same first question. And that question is, what is a mistake that you've made in leadership that you'll never forget?
Sure. I made the same mistake when I was not in leadership, and I continued to make the mistake when I was in leadership, and that was that thinking that everybody shared my sense of urgency around a task. And I
Okay.
learned that for a number of different reasons, we're all different. We're motivated by different things. We have a different time clock. We operate differently. We're just different. And recognizing that difference is incredibly important if you want to work effectively with other people. So my biggest mistake was not recognizing that fundamental difference in thinking everybody thinks alike.
Yeah. Man, I have been there and done that many times. Interestingly, you took our psychometric assessment ahead of time. And one of the things that we are measuring from a hardwiring cognitive psychology trait attribute is pace. And yours is off the charts high. You move faster than most of the population. So for you to have said that right out of the gate as the thing that you remember, I imagine you probably keep coming back to it. It's something you have to create coping strategies to, tap the brakes and let people catch up with you. Is that the case?
Well, I think it's consistent with a number of different facets of interacting with people. I always ask myself a simple question. What am I truly trying to accomplish? And what is the best way to accomplish that? There's an old Abraham Lincoln saying that Abraham Lincoln never chastised his generals, because if he needed to chastise them, then they shouldn't be generals. And when I first heard that, I said, wow, that's pretty amazing, until I read that Lincoln fired a lot of generals. So he didn't think it was his place to tell a general to operate, but he could recognize when a general wasn't operating appropriately and shouldn't hold that position anymore. Not that I let a lot of people go. In fact, I haven't let anybody go in several years at this point. But I also feel that when you hire somebody, you have as much responsibility to them as they have to you, because both of you should have essentially vetted each other, and both of you have a responsibility to each other. And therefore, I try to take that responsibility very seriously.
Yeah. I mean, you're touching on one of the bigger topics that we end up talking about here on the podcast as it relates to work culture. It's the right people in the right seats. And that doesn't just mean, the resume and the skills that they bring. It's the alignment of vision and purpose and values. And it sounds like that's exactly what you're saying right now, that you're looking for in people.
Yeah, and the fact that what appears to be a lost cause is not always a lost cause. If
Yeah.
you invest in people, you'd be amazed and surprised if your attitude is, I want you to succeed. I'm going to work with you to succeed. And there's an acknowledgement on both sides that improvement is necessary, then that becomes possible. And within my current organization, there are two individuals that there were red flags raised for various reasons. And we worked with both of them, and both are doing extremely well, exceeding expectations at this point.
Yeah, I love to hear that. We hear the adage that we should all be slow to hire and quick to fire. But there's a mistake in there if we haven't taken the time to really speak to the people who have the potential. They just aren't realizing it yet because they haven't been, kind of pointed in the right direction or corrected when a mistake had been made. And, if we just can everyone who makes a mistake, we would have no one left, including ourselves.
Right.
So, yeah,
There's
go ahead.
also a part of it in that I think of the people who work with me as family. And when you don't agree with family, you don't fire family. They're family for
True.
life. You do sometimes have to work something out that may not be what everybody wants, but family is family and it's family for life. And when someone joins our team, I think of them as family. I tell them they now have a doctor in the family
Yep.
because they can even reach out to me for medical advice if need be. I tell them I'm not giving them the advice as their doctor, but I'm happy to help them try to figure something out or do research on their behalf, etc. So it's really about attitude towards the people you work with. I never like to think of them working for me. I genuinely believe we work together. We're all on the same mission. We have different sense of urgency, but that's, as I mentioned earlier, something I've learned and
Yep.
something I can live with.
Yeah. Tell me what you've done from a culture and leadership standpoint to be able to have those conversations, take people, multiple people who have the red flags, and then kind of bring them back into the fold in a way that hasn't now, it's not ostracized them, it's actually encouraged them. Sounds like you've done that now more than once. So, what are your secrets?
Well, the secrets, which is no big secret, starts with the interview process. The first thing I ask them about is their family, their childhood, growing up, what's important to them, have they lost anybody unexpectedly, alignment with our values. And when something goes wrong, I know them as a person, not as employee or contractor. I know them as a person. And again, I think like they have joined the family, like they married into the family. And therefore, again, there's an obligation to make sure that everybody in your family is doing okay. And so when you start with that attitude and you stick with that attitude, it just changes the whole nature of the interaction with somebody.
Yeah. What is the makeup of your employee base? Is it customer facing? Is it technology? What's that look like for you?
Right now, it's overwhelmingly technology. Knock on wood, as they say. I don't want to get jinxed, but we haven't lost a engineer in 3 years.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, so um, I really believe if you treat people with the utmost respect, you validate them whenever you have a chance. As my older daughter once said, there's no shortage of enthusiasm in the world. Don't be afraid of extolling too much positive enthusiasm with people. You won't run out of it.
Yeah.
There's an endless supply. And so, also, we meet every 2 weeks as a group. I share everything, the good and the bad. And I thank them, and I thank them, and I thank them, and I thank them. And I'm grateful, and they deserve my thanks. And I'm looking out for them just like they're looking out for our mission.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful. What your daughter said, and that you've taken it to heart and applied it to your business and how you lead the people around you. I love that. Um, how, how many kids do you have, by the way?
Three.
Three kids. All right. So let's go back to the story of your brother, if that's okay. Uh, how long ago was it that there was a mixed diagnosis and you lost him, and then how did that really inspire you?
So we're going on 11 years. He passed away in November of 2013, and he was a unbelievable doctor and a better brother. He was a brother I shared a bedroom with. The brother who bought me toys on my birthday, he was an older brother. The brother who let me put my head on his lap when we took long family trips and the car was hot because the air conditioner wasn't working and he was uncomfortable, but he let his little brother put his head on his lap. He was the brother that would play with me and tell me stories. and mentored me. He went to medical school 5 years before me, and I ended up going to the same medical school as him. So he was a really special person. And it came as a shock when he was diagnosed, given family history. And the long and short of it was he deserved to be memorialized, beyond all the gratitude and well wishes that came in. And I felt that as a younger brother, it was my obligation to sanctify his memory. And I committed myself to solving a big problem, a problem that I'm sure he faced as a physician, and virtually all physicians face. Our National Academy of Medicine now predicts that every American will experience a diagnostic error. And according to a Johns Hopkins study published last year, nearly 800,000 people a year die or become permanently disabled by misdiagnosis. So, in memory of
Wow.
my brother, I've committed to saving the lives of 1 million people from premature death and permanent disabilities from misdiagnosis.
Wow. And so you've built an AI powered software that you put this in the hands of providers, correct? This isn't like a WebMD customer facing. It's for providers,
Well,
or did I misunderstand?
we built a suite of applications. It took
Okay.
nearly 10 years to do so. Also contrarian in that regard, everybody said, just put out an MVP, put out a minimal viable product. And I said, doctors and patients are generally unforgiving. Okay. We are not looking to incrementally improve a broken process. I
Right.
often quote Henry Ford, though it's dubious he ever said this, that if he asked his customers what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And the point he was making was customers think linearly and entrepreneurs need to have a vision. And so his vision of a car obviously trumped what a faster horse could do. And similarly, to quote Bill Gates, if you apply automation to an inefficient process, you magnify the inefficiencies. And so medicine is broken. This is not a podcast about the
Sure.
complications and frailties and fragilities and all the issues that are afflicting medical practices and physicians today. But suffice it to say, medical practice is broken and it needs a bold, ambitious, and dare I say, disruptive solution, not an incremental improvement. And so rather than trying to build something quickly, get to market quickly, and make money quickly, my attitude was to build something that we've never seen before, that we desperately need. There are over 100 million Americans who don't have access to primary care. There's 4.5 billion people worldwide that similarly lack that access. What we need, which AI is capable of producing, is something so vastly intellectually superior to humans to eliminate misdiagnosis from practice. And that's what we are building, and we are considerably along the way in building it. We've already released to market the first applications, but we continue to build, and that's why most of the team is still on the technology side with very little on the sales marketing side.
Why? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And even though that's not the topic of the podcast is what you're talking about is very much adjacent because we're all entrepreneurs, and there's the MVP strategy, and then there's your strategy, and that strategy isn't just about the product. I mean, you had to also cast that vision and strategy to the people that you hired. It had to become part of your integral culture, because my assumption would be you've had people working for you for years before y'all ever saw positive revenue flow. And people have to be super bought in to a vision to see that. And if you're meeting every 2 weeks and you're transparent and you're sharing the good and the bad, right? They've been attuned to that probably for the long haul. Is that accurate?
Yeah, look, what I tell every single person that joins us, whatever you have a skill set and a competence that you're bringing to the family is no longer relevant from the big picture perspective. You are now a lifesaver because our mission is pure, and that is to put something in front of patients that and doctors that is going to significantly improve medical practice and, most importantly, patient outcomes.
Yeah,
Okay, I still cry 10 plus years after losing my brother. It was very painful. It continues to be painful. No one should have to experience that, particularly if it's avoidable. And
right.
so everyone at SOAP knows we're on a mission and we are determined to achieve that mission.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Do you see an inflection point coming soon where you shift to really bringing this to market in a bigger, broader way?
So when you have a mission as opposed to a purpose, i.e., generate revenue, generate profit, increase the value of your entity. When you have a mission, when you recognize that you need to be better, then you stop and you make sure you are better. Because the first rule of medicine is first do no harm.
Hmm.
And if every doctor across America remembered that, we'd all be better off because those doctors are also patients or going to be patients. And so we constantly reevaluate what we've built, and we step back and we tweak it because it doesn't matter how much time and energy was invested if we think we can make it better. Now, again, from a business perspective, that's a formula for failure. Perfection, or the pursuit of it, is often a never-ending process. But you can perfect certain aspects of it and release those aspects as you feel extremely comfortable that you've achieved that. That is conveyed to every person on the team. The engineers are told accuracy over speed. Ideally, speed and accuracy, but accuracy over speed. That line of code that you write could either save a life or take a life. You have an extreme sacred obligation, if you're part of SOAP, to represent our mission day in, day out. And they've heard it so many times that it is intrinsic to the way they think about what we're doing. And that also means empowering them to have a voice to say, stop the assembly line. Something is amiss. Mm-hmm. When you empower people to that extent, the impossible becomes possible.
I agree so wholeheartedly. And it's so clear that as your employees are hearing this over and over, they're not empty words. You know, sometimes we see the people out there that have statements, vision statements, or values, and they talk about them all the time, but they're just empty words. They don't mean anything. It's so very clear, even just from our 15, 20 minutes here, that this is true to your heart and that it is not lip service at all. And I imagine your employees just love that. And you mentioned the intrinsic motivation that must be so sky high for them. So, man, I really commend you for that. That's incredible.
Right. Look, I share this not to impress, but to convey the extent of the mission. I don't take any compensation. I've given my stock away to my children. This to me is pure altruism. I just want to save people's lives in memory of my brother. And I'm willing to save lives anywhere and everywhere because we have a lot of disagreements in this country and across this world, but nobody should lose their life over that type of disagreement. So anything we can do to help other people, we are determined to do that. And that's why even when I'm in an Uber or a cab or happen to be sitting next to somebody in an airport, I strike up a conversation and think about ways that I can help them, particularly around early cancer and heart disease detection, which is where we have become particular experts. Wow. So I say, why do I have to wait to get software in front of somebody if I can strike up a conversation and offer some insight as a physician and someone who spent 10 years dedicated to diagnosis, why not help? And
Yeah.
so that whole theme is imbued in everything we do, even the way we interact with each other, with extreme respect.
This is interesting timing. Just yesterday, I saw an article about an 8-year-old girl who was misdiagnosed and passed away. That she was septic and she was complaining of unbearable pain, but the doctor and the doctors dismissed her. You know, oh, she's 8 years old. You know, she doesn't know what unbearable pain is, right? Are you just chomping at the bit with your vision to see that never happen again?
I want more than that because I don't know if this girl was white or black or yellow. But about a year ago, I was at a conference where they let me put on some VR goggles. And they allowed me to see from the eyes of a black pregnant woman how the medical system interacts with her and how they ignore her complaints, even though she's in the hospital and they're being patronizing to her. And she ultimately dies.
Oh,
And just inexplicably, a short time afterwards, I had an episode of atrial fibrillation. I have paroxysmal AFib, and I ended up at the local hospital. And I saw, I mean, it was just crazy at that hospital, major medical center, emergency room. And I saw, as a white person, I got rushed through. And I kept thinking about how difficult it is in a system that we still unfortunately have a lot of discrimination. You know, we're not talking about affirmative action about getting into college, okay? We can have a debate about that. I'm talking about people in medical need and how the system still treats us differently. And a few months ago, I read about how children with cancer die at significantly higher rates. And that's heartbreaking. So I think of soap also as the great equalizer. There's a lot
yeah,
of concern about bias in software. And so we built our application not on existing data. We built our data from scratch to be sans bias, to
yeah,
treat every person equally, to interact with you on your terms, at your convenience, at time that's good for you. That also is a big difference. So SOAP is meant to be the great healthcare equalizer. And we believe that as well because we are a very diverse leadership team and a very diverse team. Men and women of all different colors, hailing from many places across the globe, from Kuwait to Taiwan to Israel to Sweden, India, Brazil, the United States, Albania. We are represented by the world and we stand with the world.
that's amazing, Steve. Wow. Uh, I am on board with your mission now all the way as well. I hope that you put out the most perfect product, that it is saves lives, that it reduces heartbreak and heartache, that it equalizes the entire medical field. This has been super inspirational, Steve. I really do thank you for just sharing from your heart and giving us a glimpse into what has made up Soap Health, your culture, your people, your mission, and your vision. This has been awesome.
Well, thank you. And as I look at myself in the camera, I see that traditional angry growl that seems to reside on my face. And, you know, when you start something and you are pushing a boulder up the hill, you always ask yourself, is this a Sisyphean task based on the Sisyphus legend of pushing boulder up the hill only to see it fall down every time you got to the top, or a Herculean task that's going to just take everything you've got to get that boulder past the top of the hill? It takes that angry growl to keep pushing to
Yeah.
believe that you're going to get that boulder past the top of the hill. And so I apologize to the audience that sees me looking angry. I'm not angry. I'm just determined and passionate to make this something that helps everybody.
Yeah. I think that thankfully most people listen, but even those who watch, they will see what I've seen, which is the true passion and vulnerability that you've shared. Before we kind of go to our very last quick fire ending segment that's a little bit sillier, we always give guests the opportunity to shamelessly plug. I assume you're going to plug Soap Health, but maybe you have something else. So what do you want to shamelessly plug, and how should we investigate that more and find out more for ourselves?
I'm not going to shamelessly plug Soap Health. What I'm going to say to people, as someone who has spent 10 years studying AI and working with AI, we should all be more excited and apprehensive about the power of AI to make a difference in our lives, particularly in medicine. And I'll give a very quick example. The average doctor experiences less than 1,000 diagnoses over his or her career, maybe knows another several hundred, unbelievably, maybe can name 2,000. There are 28,000 diagnoses, give or take. AI has the intellectual capacity to deal with seeing the bigger picture far beyond human capacity today. And at the speed that we're improving, there is no question that we will go to the AI first in the future when not only something is clearly gone wrong, but in the very earliest stages, maybe even at the cellular level, when things start to go awry, at the very beginning of the continuum of disease. Soap Health wants to lead that charge. Okay. What we need to do that is we need to raise more money. I am now self-funding Soap Health out of pocket. One of our challenges is that people don't like to invest in older entrepreneurs. And so that's a whole topic for another day,
Sure.
ageism and venture capital. But if there is anybody in the audience who believes in our mission, who wants to be part of the family, is interested in doing extreme well by doing significant good, then I'd love to speak to that person. You can catch me on LinkedIn. You can come to the SOAP website. Please, if you're out there, I'd love to speak with you. We can use all the help we can get.
Wow. Amazing. Well, this has been just gold. This has been really wonderful and kind of a different feel to a lot of our episodes, and I'm really appreciative of it. So thank you again. We're going to do just our quick fire ending, all right? So I'm just going to have 5 or 6 this or that's, and then you tell me of this or that, which one is for you, all right? Here we go. Tacos or sushi?
Sushi.
Playing or coaching?
Coaching.
Gym or home workout?
Gym.
Laptop or desktop?
Depends on the laptop, but I'll go with desktop for them.
Last one. Text message or email?
Text message.
Same. I hate email. Hey, Steve, again, thank you so much for everything that you've shared today. We've really appreciated it. This has been a wonderful episode.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Well, you've been listening to or watching the Work Cultured podcast, and we will see you again on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.